Welcome back to the Bourbon Note, everybody. I'm Ben. It's Christmas week. We're decked out for Christmas, and I've got a seasonally appropriate bourbon on the bar. Let's get into it. So in the spirit of giving, this week being Christmas, I'm going to review a sample that was given to me. This is BAM New Riff Winter Whiskey. This is a sample from Bourbon School. Please go like, comment, subscribe, do all the things. Check out Bourbon School. Got a great channel there, great people. So Brian, thank you for sending this sample. I had texted back and forth with him a little bit about trying some different whiskeys that he had, so he was gracious enough to send some of these over. So thank you very much. This one is an interesting one. So it's from New Riff, and apparently it has malted oat. I actually have some information here. I want to get this right. 100 proof, bottled in bond, non-chill filtered, made with malted oat and chocolate malt. I don't know what either one of those are going to bring to the whiskey. Bam, I already have this poured. But this one should be interesting. And it is very interesting on the first sniff. Wow, that's kind of, interesting. Hate to be redundant. After multiple sniffs, this is kind of a weird one. The chocolate comes through, could be power of suggestion, but what I think is not power of suggestion that I think I would notice, because I don't know what chocolate malt does to a mash bill, but this has got a malty vibe to it. I mean, the chocolate's definitely there, but there's like a bit of an American single malt sort of vibe I'm getting off of this, to be honest, which is interesting. It's still a bourbon, I guess, right? Kentucky straight bourbon whiskey made with malted oat and chocolate malt. I mean, it's not malted barley. It doesn't say that. I'm sure there's some in the mash bill, but that's what I'm getting is like a malt whiskey sort of vibe, surrounded by like some chocolate notes, a little bit of spice, and then some sweetness that you would get from a bourbon. Well, I hope this is as interesting on the palate as it is on the nose. Let's find out. Cheers. That's a really, really weird whiskey. Not necessarily in a bad way, but boy, that's odd. On the palate, that just really... I've had some craft whiskey expressions that kind of have a similar note to this. I think the chocolate malt must really do something to add flavor to this, because there's definitely that chocolatey sort of mocha vibe. You know what it really reminds me of on the first sip is the chocolate almonds. Not like chocolate covered almonds. I don't know if it's like Blue Diamond or if just the Costco brand or whatever, but they're just dry, like dusted with chocolate almonds. And they have kind of a dark note to it. That's what this really reminds me of. That with a little bit of like, I'm getting a little bit of apple, like from that maltiness that I'm picking up on it. Let's go in for another sip here, because this is kind of a wild one. I don't even know, this is just all over the board. I mean, it's not all over the board in the sense that it's doing a bunch of different things, but it's just kind of like, I don't know, every sip I take, I'm getting like that chocolatey note is there. That chocolate almond note is definitely there. And again, not chocolate covered almonds, but like the dry chocolate dusted almonds. And then there's a nice spice to it, actually a really nice spice, but I can't really place what it is. It's a little bit like black pepper. It's not really like cinnamon, but there's a nice heat to it that you would get off of like a cinnamon candy, which is interesting. It definitely has some holiday vibes to it, although I don't know. I feel like this whiskey doesn't really know what it's trying to do, I guess. But it's definitely interesting. I think it runs around $70. I don't know that I would rush out to buy a bottle of this, but it's certainly not bad. But it's one of those weird ones that you don't want to drink all the time. You know, you would definitely want to have a pour of this just every once in a while. Let's have another sip here before we get out of here. With with that spice and that heat, I really feel like there's maybe a cinnamon note that's trying to come out, but it's just kind of buried under that chocolate. And again, a little bit of apple in a strange way on that kind of malty side of the flavor profile. This one, I don't really know. I mean, I'm having a hard time really putting this whiskey into words, but it's definitely, again, I have had some craft whiskeys that have had a similar flavor profile, and honestly, I think they were ones that had that chocolate malt in them as well. And so I think there's really something to be said about that. That must really do a number on the mash bill, and it really creates an interesting flavor profile. This whiskey is definitely not for everybody. This is more of an experimental one if you want to try something that's really, really off profile from a standard bourbon, but I would still say is pretty good. There's nothing offensive about it. It's just so different. It's almost like its own class of whiskey, if that makes any sense. Like, I don't really know, if you gave me this, I wouldn't know really what it is, because I would assume that with having such a wild flavor profile, that there must have been some sort of, you know, shenanigans involved with it that would disqualify it from being a bourbon, like some sort of weird, you know, flavoring, or aged in a weird barrel, not finished, but actually aged in a weird barrel. There's no rules that you can't put different kinds of grain in a bourbon, you know, as long as you got the 51% corn. So, you know, there's that. But yeah, this is definitely a weird one. I would say overall, chocolate forward, a little bit of that apple note, a really nice spice that I kind of grew on me over the course of having a few sips of this. I think getting a couple sips in, it got better than that first initial sip, because that first initial one was just kind of throws you off guard a little bit, just because it's so different. But it's definitely an interesting one. I think this is one you could maybe, I don't know, I've said this about a couple whiskeys recently, but you get those ones that, you know, you say you'd like, it's like a bottle share whiskey. If you want to bring something that's unique, maybe not everybody's going to like it. Maybe even most people aren't going to like it, but it's certainly a unique bottle to share and give people the opportunity to try something that's kind of a different profile. You know, have a couple of buddies over that are into whiskey and they've never had this. This is a good kind of curveball to throw out there. So yeah, that's what that is. It definitely has some holiday vibes to it, though, I would say that. So anyway, speaking of the holidays, Merry Christmas, everybody, to you and your families, and thank you all so much for supporting this channel over the last year. Hopefully we'll get even more support in the next year, because I'm not going anywhere, and I hope you don't either. So yeah, everybody just have a merry, safe Merry Christmas. Safety first. This has been New Riff Winter Whiskey on the Bourbon Note. I'm Ben. Please like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already. We'll see you on the next one.